gentlemen, it's the Right Guys podcast, and we welcome RFK to the fight. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Happy Friday, happy Friday. Welcome back. Another edition of the Right Guys podcast. My name Max McGuire, here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. And as Josh just said in the intro, welcoming RFK Jr. to the fight. I watched that whole speech. It was... So obviously he has a vocal condition, which can make it hard to understand everything he says. I started a little bit late. I thought I was live, but I actually paused it. So I watched first 20% of it in 2x speed. And I'll say it becomes a lot easier to understand him and to hear him when you speed up. So, but watch the whole thing. Policy wise, stunningly, RFK Jr. just talked more about policy in that one speech than Kamala Harris has in her entire presidential campaign.
RFK said more about helping protect children than Kamala has in 4 years.
Yeah, I'm going to try and find that clip.
Which is pretty crazy. I mean, I like it. I like the way he came out swinging with it. It felt like there was a lot of... he spent a lot of time thinking about this, right? I mean, he was probably sitting there having some really deep conversations with himself about what the future of this is like. And he really, we were talking earlier, you said it's very pragmatic what he did. It makes a lot of sense because now he gets to make actual change. Like if he gets handpicked for something, you've got your thoughts on what he might get. We'll wait for that. But
most of that speech was him talking about the FDA, NIH, talking about. I mean, the two things he talked about most in that speech, policy wise, were drugs. Well, three things: drugs, chemicals, and foods. And I guess the chemicals in the drugs and the foods. It sounds like, because there was also a point in this where he said, "I'm taking Trump at his word that he wants to do these things." It sounds like Trump made him a promise to either be head of the FDA or head of the NIH.
Could you imagine
that speech, though? That sounds like someone who has his eyes set on heading up the Food and Drug Administration.
Talk about having some real power. I mean, we've talked with RFK before. We've actually spoken with the man. Right. And he has always been, he's been labeled as an anti-vaxxer, but he's really concerned with the health of kids like that. I think every time he spoke, I mean, he mentioned the same things about protecting children, doing something for another generation. And the same thing comes out here, and it's consistent. You know what I mean? He's the same person there as he is right now. Sure, he may have been a dyed-in-the-wool liberal at one point, but maybe he's seen the things, right? Maybe he's one of those people that actually sees the light and knows what it means to be conservative, right? And I think that's where we're at with him.
I have a clip, if we can play it. This, to me, resonated the absolute most, and it's why I think there's been a lot of questioning. Will his endorsement help Trump if RFK Jr. is out on the campaign trail? Because there's also a point in this. Like, I've been watching the betting markets. I enjoy the betting markets. As I said yesterday, I don't partake anymore because I've been burned. Every now and then, I'll put like a little bit of money on like the Jets to win the Super Bowl because I'm a Jets fan, and I just piss that money away. Whatever. But the betting markets on RFK Jr. Will he endorse Trump? Will he endorse? And they have a betting market on it on Polymarket, and the rules are he has to either say I endorse, or him or one of his representatives have to have said he endorsed previously, and then him go on stage today and say, I support at the very least. And right before he went for this press conference, this speech, it was breaking news that his attorney filed in Pennsylvania to remove him from the ballot, saying that he's endorsing Trump. Then he went on stage today and said, I support him. And then he also said, I'm joining the campaign. But now all of these like chronic gamblers are all arguing over whether this market should end yes or no. It's almost like he did the way he endorsed Trump is like a gambler's worst nightmare because it's not cut and dry whether the
specific enough to
Trump. Yeah. It's not
Yeah,
cut and dry. But he did say, I'm joining the campaign. He used that word, and that kind of got me to sit up in my chair when I heard it. But
yeah,
the line that he delivered, that without a doubt to me was the best line, the one that resonates the most, was this one.
Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country and our children is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
each other. Yeah,
That's why I launched my campaign to unify America.
That line is a killer line. Like you want to talk about, and he said earlier in the speech, I don't agree with Trump on everything. But then he listed, I agree with him on ending the forever wars, on fighting big pharma, on fighting processed foods. He went down the line, all the things he agrees with. And then that line right there, that like, if he wrote that, amazing. But whoever his speechwriter is, if his speechwriter wrote that, should immediately go over the Trump campaign and help
yeah.
write.
Bravo to them. Bravo.
Yeah.
What a line. I
It was a
heard
great
that,
line.
and it
A great line.
hits you in the feels, right? And it's
Yeah.
real. Like everything that's coming out of him doesn't feel like the astroturf you get from Harris, right? Or
Yeah.
Walls. This is genuine stuff here, and that's the scariest part about it, because people can identify with this now. They identified with RFK, and if he's throwing his hat in with Trump, let's think about those polls where there was those undecideds, or the ones that were sitting in the RFK camp, and now you get half of that. You get that 3% bump of like whatever Kennedy
Yeah.
had in the polls, right? It's going to change things. And is that so is this, here's the question, is this better for Republicans or is this better for Democrats?
Well, let me show my screen. The polling, they've done a lot of polling on this in the last 48, 72 hours as it's kind of come out that this is going to happen. And here's a memo that was sent to the Trump campaign. Tony Fabrizio, I believe he's their poller. And they went through all the swing states. And so this top line is the percentage of the vote share in these states that RFK Jr. was getting, right? But then they broke it down. And then they asked those RFK Jr. voters, if he was to withdraw from the race, who would they vote for instead?
Yeah.
And what you see here is a net positive for Trump in every single state. Arizona, Trump's plus 25 in RFK Jr. supporters. Georgia, plus 13. Michigan's the tightest, plus 2. North Carolina, plus 36. Nevada, plus 50. So of the 4% that are here, that RFK Jr. voters in Nevada, this polling indicates that 3% will go to Trump.
Wow.
That's what plus 50 means. It's
wow.
you know what I mean? Pennsylvania plus 13, Wisconsin plus 30. So that question just is polled. If he drops out, who do you support? That doesn't take into account RFK Jr. actively encouraging people to vote for Trump. And in his words, joining the Trump campaign, which I'm going to try and see if I can find that clip. I couldn't clip it while I was watching it, so on our show. But he said it very clearly: join the campaign.
Here's something that I want people to think about. He has just now shown and flexed the muscle of a potential third party. And yeah, you say they're small. Yeah, you say they don't have a lot of money. But when you run a campaign inside of a cycle, it's usually a 2-horse race, and you put a third one in there, right? You can start deciding who you want to throw your votes into camp with. And listening to RFK, he said this is the start of a third party. And it's true. This is like the undecided party that we're kind of seeing here, right? Those people who don't want to go left, who don't want to go right, they end up here in the middle. And this can have real gravity for the future of whatever RFK is putting together here, right? What if others adopt this as we move forward too? Now you've got real political leverage to do things.
This is Kamala's wins. This is how you know they don't actually understand what's going on. They just posted this breaking. RFK Jr. announced that Kamala Harris refused to even meet with him. Retweet so all Americans see this and know Kamala Harris is already putting her incredible decision-making abilities on display. That's not a plus.
Yeah.
He said he says he was dropping out, and he wanted to see if he can help each campaign realize his vision. And now Kamala's Twitter accounts are bragging about refusing to meet with him.
My God, they're shooting
That's going
themselves
to
in the
take.
foot with this.
How do you think that's going to play with this line of voters right here?
It's not. Oh my gosh, they should be like. There's got to be people seriously on the dim side smoking that cigarette, saying, "Oh, what are we gonna do here?" Right?
Yeah.
And this is new. Like this is new in the political realm, which is why politics can be fun, right? You watch this and you're trying to figure out how to win now. And are the Dems being outmaneuvered? Is it just happening? I mean, this is a big play, Max. Like people don't understand like how large of a decision this is. Because now you've got an RFK out there. Like,
Yeah.
is he going to be on the circuit with him? Are they going to make appearances together? I mean, that
you didn't
doubles
see it
your
today?
What's that? Well, they had the double. They were both in Arizona, right? And they
No,
hit the
Trump.
state
Trump
from
this
both sides.
morning. Trump this morning is in Nevada.
Nevada, that's
He's
where it was.
doing a no tax on tips, and then this evening he's going to Arizona, and this is what the Trump campaign put out. Glendale, Arizona,
Oh,
featuring a special guest.
oh, I'm prophetic sometimes, right?
Yeah, but listen, RFK Jr. could have withdrawn from the race anywhere.
Yeah.
Could have done it at his home in New York, could have done it at his home in California, chose
Yeah.
to do it in Arizona, just so happens to be a couple hours before Donald Trump is set to speak in Arizona. And now Trump team put this out yesterday amid all of the talk about the special guest at the DNC. So this might just be a troll, but the fact that they're both in Arizona lines up. And I thought this was genius because everyone was in Twitter and Facebook, everything. Who's a special guest? Who's a special guest? Who's a special guest? And the minute you typed in special guest, this one came up first because the DNC was saying we have a special guest. We have a special guest. Now it turns out the DNC never had a special guest. It was just they were just lying to people to try and get them to watch.
Just to get them to tune in, right? And they apologized for it, but it was never real. It never materialized. But they know how to. They're working them algorithms, man. They know how that stuff works. They're working them algorithms, and they know it. And like, there's a real fight happening here. And there's you feel like it's starting to ramp up. You know, we're already halfway through August. We've got September. I mean, is there any? We got an August surprise from the Republicans on this.
So yesterday, Democrats were floating, oh, special guest. And the rumors were, oh, it's George W. Bush. He's going to endorse them.
Not going to happen.
What? Then, oh, it's going to be Taylor Swift. Oh, it's going to be Beyonce. And everyone's like, who's the special guest? Who is the special guest? Who's the special guest? Well, here's CNN's reporter on the ground at the DNC yesterday explaining it was all a lie.
Anticipation here and elsewhere that there may be a special guest. I am told by Democrats that Kamala Harris was their guest. They did not want a celebrity at the end of this convention to essentially compete with her. One senior advisor telling me this is a deadly serious election.
So in many ways, Kamala Harris was a guest because the convention lasted 4 days and she was only there for 2 of them. So because she was gone the first day.
Yeah.
The second day, and then she was out yesterday watching stuff. So lots of people on Twitter and social media saying maybe the special guests were all the friends that we made along the way. Like that's who the special guest was, right? But they lied.
They were trying to get people to tune in. We've got somebody amazing coming.
Yeah. You're gonna be amazing. Like that's what they were doing, and now they're like, wow, our ratings were great. Everyone tuned in because you said you had a special guest.
Right. Like,
you don't have a special guest. What do you think is going to happen next?
Oh, my gosh. And that didn't materialize. And, it's kind of funny that they go back and they're like, oh, we're sorry. We didn't know that was going to happen.
Now we got the special guest coming.
Yeah.
Featuring a special guest. Listen, RFK Jr., I think his best, obviously, talking about those issues doesn't hurt Trump. Saying that there's huge corruption in the food industry, in the healthcare industry, in pharmaceutical industry, that's not going to turn off Trump supporters, because if you tell the average Trump supporter there's corruption in government, you don't even need to finish the second half of that sentence. Like, yep, damn right there is. Right?
Yeah.
Or if you say there's corruption in major industries in the United States. Damn right there is. Don't even need to tell them which one you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Damn right there's corruption. I think
Well, what-
that RFK Jr.'s his other real addition to the Trump campaign, because remember, he said we're joining the Trump campaign. He's going to help Trump.
Yeah.
The other major addition I think he brings is to explain what, and he did this during his speech masterfully, to explain why he is in this position. He tried to run for the Democrat nomination for the president, and the DNC froze him out. They said, no, Joe Biden is our nominee. We're not going to have real debates. We're not going to have real events. It's not going to be a competitive primary. You will not get on the debate stage with Joe Biden. So the DNC put their finger on the scale to stop him from competing against Biden for the nomination. Right?
Democracy.
So, yes.
Democracy.
So the fact that they then did that palace coup and removed Joe Biden from the ballot and install Kamala Harris is doubly insulting to someone like RFK Jr. because he has for months said, hey, you know what? I'd like to compete for the DNC nomination. No, it's not up for competition. We have our nominee. They probably knew that was a lie when they told him that.
Yeah. I mean, it's there. It was selection, not election. I mean, that's how they got Kamala, right? She was handpicked. What group sits there and says they get to handpick a political person, right? Who makes that call, right?
Yeah.
That's not democracy, but it's all democracy out of their camp. And it's painfully obvious.
RFK Jr.
You're one of those
say,
people.
Go ahead. There you
I was going to say, imagine you're one of those people on the inside that is corrupt, and then somebody actually shows up to start rooting out corruption. I mean, it's going to get hot out there. Like temper's going to start flaring, right? And people are going to get nervous. But that's real change, gang. That's real change.
It's interesting. All RFK has to say is millions of people signed petitions all over this country because they wanted me on the ballot. And he said that tonight. Not a single voter has signed a petition or cast a primary ballot saying they want Kamala Harris on the general election ballot.
You're right. Yeah.
He, on the other hand, millions of his supporters went out door to door, knocking on doors, staying out. I've seen him here in Texas. Went out to try and get people to sign their petitions. Donald Trump won the primary. Hands down. Easy job.
Mm-hmm.
Kamala Harris is the only one in this equation that not a single voter or a single petition signer at any point in the last year has ever put their name on a piece of paper saying, I want Kamala Harris to be the presidential candidate on the ballot. No one's done it. No one's done it. That's all he has to. He just has to hammer that home.
Yeah. And if they had played their cards differently and he was the head of the ticket, this would be the closest 50-50 race ever.
If he was the head of the ticket, Trump loses. If he was the head of the Democrat ticket, Trump's out.
Right. And it's wild. They went with they went with the show pony, not a workhorse, right? Because that's all that the Democrats have left is just show. I mean, there's no substance. When's the last time you heard Kamala Harris say something that you thought that's going to be great for the country today? I can't wait for.
I haven't heard her say anything.
Yeah.
So this is exciting.
Yeah.
As you say, and I think that having watched that whole RFK Jr. speech, the part that also resonated with me was talking about the censorship of his campaign and just how much the media and the Democrat Party have been working in cahoots to stop his message from reaching voters. And how he said, even to this day, if you share a link to a petition to try and get RFK Jr. on the ballot, Facebook flashes a warning that that's a violation of their terms of service.
Bull. Really?
They have listed everything RFK Jr. does as a violation of their terms of service, probably because of his anti-vaccine takes. But that doesn't mean that sharing a petition for something completely different is a violation of their terms of service. I have to say, right, like watching it, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm crawl over broken glass, walk over hot coals, vote for Trump. Watching that RFK Jr. speech, it resonated with me.
Mhm.
Not to the point where I'll be like, don't Trump, go vote for him. I don't think that his endorsement is just going to help bring his supporters over to Trump. I think his endorsement is going to resonate both with the dwindling numbers, but still exist, the never Trump Republicans, right? Because his whole message of we don't have to agree on everything, but let's get something done
Mhm.
together will resonate
Mhm.
with them. And the people on the other side who are hesitant to vote for Kamala Harris, who
Mhm.
feel like they actually have been disenfranchised. Not a ton. The other side is very happy to vote for a candidate that no one actually wanted. You're going to get more than just the 3 to 5%. This is going to resonate with more than that, which is why I
Yeah.
hope he becomes not just an endorsement, but also a surrogate, working with Trump, making these promises. Because the more people hear about this, the better. Because it's the kind of policies that he's proposing that don't get added to the stump speech because there just isn't enough time, right?
Yeah.
You have to talk about the 10 issues that are most important. The FDA corruption doesn't usually top that list,
Mm-mm.
but he can do that. He does it very effectively.
Yeah. Because when you listen to it, you're like, geez, there's a lot going on there. It's effective change. It's probably one of the better political maneuvers of the last 50 years. I think it is. I think there's a deep game that's always being played, and when you have a legacy liberal name like Kennedy suddenly attached to Donald Trump, it changes the way people think about Trump. I mean, it changes the way people think in general. Imagine if 3% for Democrats, just 3% jump ship and vote
Yeah.
Trump for an RFK ticket or Trump. But imagine an RFK ticket in 4 years, right? Trump knows this is he's got another one-term shot. He's got to go hard. He's got to go fast, and he's got to get as much done. So, what does the future of this party look like? And I think that's really where the play is. I've said it just a few days ago, right? There's finally long-term planning in elections that Republicans are starting to work. Not all of them are on board yet, but they will be. They'll have to be. I mean, there's no way the party survives that way. So this has deep implications. I mean, I think it's a rather historical moment. I think it really does affect elections for the next 12 years.
If they make, look at it this way, if RFK Jr. was to become the director of Health and Human Services, he would be in charge of FDA, NIH, CDC, and
No.
10 other government agencies, all fall under HHS. That if I was
An
RFK
easy
Jr.,
sell there.
if I was RFK Jr., like that would be my act. That would be my price, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you land among the stars, right?
Yeah.
So I asked for that, and then if that's a no, I'd settle for the ones below it.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you're Trump, you're like, oh, you want to be HHS? Okay. Lots of people had been saying this week he wants to be Attorney General. That's a hard no.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the things he says, but you cannot be the top prosecutor in a Trump administration and be a Democrat. You just can't, right? Some people had said State Department. That's a hard no, right? It's a hard no. But something like HHS, I think as a conservative, you could be very comfortable with him in HHS because
You know what I think
because
you get with
go ahead.
what you get with an RFK in a COVID situation? You don't get a bunch of these shots that you've got to take that nobody can like you're forced to take, right?
Yeah.
I think something like that gets prevented. I think
Absolutely.
it's totally different.
Could you imagine that speech where Trump says, my plan is to nominate him for the director of Health and Human Services, and Kennedy comes back on stage after it and says, if I am HHS, we will never again have a lockdown in this country. We will never again have vaccine mandates. We will never again force people to take experimental things.
Like military back pay.
Yeah.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
Like all those things are jumping in, right?
Because that, I was just watching social media, the hesitancy from RFK Jr. supporters has been that, oh, well, Trump's the one who did Operation Warp Speed. There was even RFK Jr.'s running mate, Nicole Shanahan, she said she's hesitant to endorse Trump until he apologizes for Operation Warp Speed, which you're never gonna have Trump do. Operation Warp Speed didn't force anyone to do anything. It just put the pedal to the metal to try and get as much stuff done as possible. That wing of RFK Jr. supporters who are like, wait a minute, 14 days to stop the spread came from the Trump administration, and it lasted months, not 14 days. Why would I vote for him? Putting RFK Jr. in that position so that he can say forcefully, if I'm confirmed to this position, I will never again allow this to happen. That is very resonating with that group of people. And I hope that Trump does it. I know that there are concerns about the quid pro quo, like trade of endorsement. Oh, here you go. Here's your gift. That happens in politics all the time. I hope he does it.
Podesta isn't where he's at just because he wasn't promised something, right? Like you start picking people out like prominent Dems as they went through their careers. Everybody gets handpicked for something. It's kind of fun to see this. It's exciting, but at the same time, there's still no guarantee. You got to get out there and vote, share the show, make sure it gets out there. I'd love to see more of her handles on the lips. If anybody in the Trump administration does listen, this is the time. I mean, you got to come out swinging hard on this. And we're in round 3. This is an 8-round fight. Yeah. We've got to get all the way to November.
Yeah.
So this is a good third round, right? At one point, we thought the opponent was completely down and knocked out, and they pulled the guy out and replaced him, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they gave him a different fighter mid-fight.
We thought it was an MMA match where Trump's on top of Biden, punching him into submission. No, this is still a fight. It is still a fight. But I want to show you a new poll that just came out today. Remember the other day talked about Virginia. Shockingly, 3% was the poll from Roanoke. New poll, also 3%. So understanding how Donald Trump typically, and this was before this RFK endorsement, right? Understanding that Donald Trump typically overperforms the polls. 3% in Virginia. Virginia is now a swing state. I mean, at least for the purpose of campaigning. We'll see at the end where it lies. But right now, if you see 2 polls in a row saying that Kamala Harris is only +3 in Virginia, you put the pedal to the metal and you start planning campaign rallies in Virginia. If only to force Kamala Harris to do the same. Do the run. Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania. Just go right up the coast.
Yeah.
Right? Do it over 3 days. Over 3 days.
The big cities. You go in there to the heart of the big cities of the largest counties who have the most votes, and you get RFK out there with you. You will have a hell of a ticket there. JD Vance making his way west, right? Have RFK, have Trump hit that whole East Coast. If it's heavily dim, you run in an RFK on that day, and then Trump comes and meets him, right? I mean, that's how you start getting those audiences. You need to start chipping away on the inside now, because that's the way you start winning this fight is, it's body shots now. It's all body shots.
Yeah.
And if you can start taking away those big places, you're going to get hot shots, right? And might not be the best analogy with Trump, but you know what I'm saying there. Like, I thought about that after I said it, and I'm like, well, probably going to get some comments for that one. I say things sometimes.
It's funny. I tried to get Twitter's AI to create an image of Trump and RFK Jr. holding hands at a Trump rally because I want to use it for our thumbnail for today. And Twitter's AI Grok doesn't know what RFK Jr. looks like. This is what it made for the first one.
It looks like what's his face out of California. It looks like Newsom.
Yeah, it looks like Newsom. That's not RFK Jr. It looks like Trump. Doesn't look like RFK Jr. Then I said, okay, do it again. And then I put his full name just in case maybe the RFK Jr. doesn't work. And it gave me this. Closer, but not him. Still not him.
Hey, man, we got to post this out to Musk. Elon, if you are seeing this, help some people out here. We need this fixed. I mean, really.
So then I changed it to say Donald Trump and independent presidential candidate Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. And it gave me this.
No.
Again, not him. So Grok doesn't know what RFK Jr. looks like, which is weird.
Kind
Also
of
weird
disturbing, really.
that the AI for creating the sign, instead of just taking what the sign typically looks like, they called him Trump Donald instead of Donald Trump. That's a little weird.
The hands are hilarious. They're just not the right way.
Yeah. There's a
You're
weirdness
looking at
to
it,
the
you're like,
hands. Like
huh.
telling your computer to make the two hands look. Let's look at the other hands.
Yeah. They were.
That's weird.
I can tell you, trying to be an artist, it's hard to
Put
draw
better.
hands, and even AI can't get
Yeah.
it right. You know what I mean?
No, I mean this is pretty good. That's a weird way to hold hands.
Yeah. It looks
But
like something
that
you'd see
one-
on like a magazine cover, right? Like really bad
Oh,
editing.
No, that looks like something you see in a horror movie. That
But it's
hand.
interesting that an AI doesn't know what Kennedy's face looks like. Is it just because there's not enough examples? I mean, he's been on TV, pictures, and magazines and stuff like that. I mean, it just makes you wonder who sits behind some of these AI algorithms sometimes, or like, maybe you don't see his face, or maybe we don't like this candidate, so we just kind of suppress what they look like, so nothing positive can come out. And that's the big tech part that he's talking about fighting, right? I mean, this is the censorship. If AI doesn't know what he looks like, has it been censored?
Yeah.
Has it been censored?
I don't know why. I don't know why it doesn't know what it looks like, but I've experienced this a couple times with the Twitter AI, trying to say like, okay, make a picture of this. Remember, we did it with Tim Walz. It doesn't know what Tim Walz
it doesn't
looks like.
Tim Walz. So
It doesn't know
maybe,
what Tim Walz. It knows what Mr. Rogers looks like.
Oh yeah,
It doesn't know what Tim Walz looks like.
So
I'm interested. It's interesting, like what date did they teach the AI? Because that obviously matters. They probably didn't teach the AI this year. It probably got taught last year. It just ran through pictures last year.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. So Trump's doing a no tax on tips today. Big
Nevada,
no tax in Nevada. Looks like he's at an Italian restaurant. This meme made me chuckle because it's so true. Kamala shooting the economy, looking back at the camera. I will fix the economy.
That's a good one. That cat is funny, but he's weird though. Like when he goes on the subways, that's been a long time. I mean,
Chandy says this coalition, especially if RFK hits the trail as a surrogate, is a powerful pivot point in this election. In my opinion, he's an excellent debater and rational thinker. D should be panicking. They are panicking, and the word coming out of the Democrat camp yesterday was that they're actually considering, after RFK Jr. drops out of the race, to start running campaign ads against RFK Jr.
No.
You say that again. They are considering launching anti-RFK Jr. campaign ads after he leaves the race, just to make people not like him. And this is the plan. This is the plan all along. You censor someone so they can't get their message out, and then you brand them for them. It's what happened with JD Vance. JD Vance was named the VP, and immediately the Democrats came out with weird. Right. And they did a couple of clips that were just completely taken out of context. And now JD Vance, for many, is known as the guy who hates childless cat ladies, even though that's not what he was talking about. You brand the other person before they can brand themselves. They're looking at it and saying, well, wow, the most Americans don't really know who RFK Jr. is. Let's rip him to shreds before he can convince them to like him, so that then they'd like Trump. So yeah, they're actually working on anti-RFK Jr. attack ads after he's left the race.
Unbelievable. It's got to be new, right? I'm not aware of anybody spending money like that before. And another
not on a third party candidate
who's dropped out,
who's already dropped out. I mean, it's unheard of. Yeah. It's absolutely unheard of.
Even his own family started attacking him, like the moment he announced, right? Did you see the tweet from, I think it's one of his sisters?
Oh yeah. Saying like we don't support him. Da, da, da.
Yeah. This one right here. It's the it's old Kerry Kennedy. I am ashamed. I am sharing a personal statement that my family and I have made in response. But essentially, they're saying that blah blah blah. We'll leave Harrison Walls. Our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and our family held most dear. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
That's coming from your family, dude.
And again, the response from him. I'll play the clip again.
Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country and our children is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other. That's why I launched my campaign to unify.
That message, every time you hear it, it just hits deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, I love my kids. Love my kids to death, right? No amount of me loving my kids will ever get me to vote for Kamala Harris. It won't, right? But the message it's not geared towards me, right? It's not geared towards people, someone like me who has staked my entire professional reputation on certain issues, written books about certain issues, right? Adamantly, like earnestly believe these issues. You're not going to flip me on the importance of the Second Amendment and gun rights, or on how terrible abortion is, or how terrible open borders are. You're not going to change that. But that message will resonate a ton with the independent voters who are voting with their wallets, and they're looking at their children, tucking them into bed, saying which candidate is going to make a better country for them. That's where that resonates the most.
Yeah. And it's a special kind of line. And it's the thing is, that's one of the most genuine lines I think I've heard in a long time come out of anybody, because I mean, it's that moment of knowing that he's not going to win the presidency, but he's got a chance to do something. Do it. Right? Make some change. He has an actual opportunity here to do some of the things that have potential to be really good for our children. Like just diet, school lunches. Like that's an actual big deal. Some of the crap we give our kids to eat's horrible.
But notice the difference between how he talked about it and how Michelle Obama talked about it. Michelle Obama, her school lunch program, you see the pictures that came out of that? It was gross. It was absolutely gross. Let me see if I can find a picture.
I mean, they thought it was like this low calorie stuff. It was the most processed food crap you'd ever seen. And that's not how you keep a healthy populace, man. Trust me. I know a guy that is nothing about, he's all about, staying in shape and eating healthy. And I could only imagine what was put in that food to keep it the way it looked, right? In those shapes.
Yeah.
And then I look at luncheons in France, and it's like these beautiful just all this beautiful French food. What is that? Right?
Michelle Obama's lunch program. You get a slice of like cheesy bread, a box of raisins, and a chocolate milk. A slice of white bread, 5 chicken nuggets, slop, and an apple. Apple's not bad.
No.
But like
it looks like a prison meal, like something in prison. I bet prisoners eat better than this. What?
Look at this Michelle Obama lunch.
I know. But one kid out there probably was like, I would love the hot dog with the ketchup and an apple, right? Some picky eaters.
Where's the bun?
Dude, I remember as kids, there would be like there would at least be an entree and 2 sides on that tray. And a glass of milk. I ate good.
A single cherry tomato.
And is that even milk? I mean, is it like discount milk?
Yeah. That's like government milk. No, I remember growing up. There were obviously better lunch days than other days. Like Sloppy Joe days weren't that bad. We would always get
Sloppy Joe days. That was a no.
One day there would always be pizza.
Which
was obviously the best day. There was usually a chicken nugget day. And there would be vegetables. There would be, many of the kids didn't eat the vegetables, whatever. But they would try and make the vegetables as like tasty as possible. But this, I mean, you hear him talking about school lunches, it resonates because his goal is not to give children an apple, a hot dog without a bun, and a single cherry tomato.
Yeah.
Right. And then say, wow, mission accomplished. Right. No, he wants to dive into more than that. So yeah, no, it's interesting, and every time I listen, all throughout listening to that speech, I couldn't help but think how different this race would have been if he was allowed to talk to the American people without the censorship.
Yeah. Yeah.
How different it would have been. There were some polls that showed him as high as 20%, and that was just on his own. Imagine what it would be like if he had. Now, it wouldn't have been better for Trump. That would have been worse.
Oh, yeah.
But now you have, at least in that, a bedfellow who's willing to fight back against censorship, because Trump and RFK Jr. both know
Right.
what it's like to be censored by the media, to be lied about by the media. I mean, he gave a statistic today at this speech that in the entire race of all the major news channels, he had only been offered 2 live interviews.
Unbelievable. Shocking. It's shocking. And Kamala Harris has done fewer than him, which is even the stranger
Yeah.
part. So, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a dagger there.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And these are people, producers, who every day wake up and they're like, what the hell are we going to fill this hour with?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what
Yeah.
it's like. I know
Yeah.
what it's like.
Yeah.
Like, just think about the last year and a half. The last year and a half. How
Yeah.
many days they had where they felt like you and I have felt sometimes, like, crap, this is a slow news day. What are we
Dang.
going to talk about
Crap.
now?
Right.
And then they open their email and they get that email from RFK Jr.'s publicist. I imagine he has one, or someone on the
Oh, yeah.
campaign doing this, offering to do an interview. And they say, no, we're going to go out to, we're going to do a local hit on a small town trying to hit the record for the largest pizza ever made.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Yeah.
that's what they do. Like, okay, well, how can we fit? What are our local affiliates doing? Oh, well, someone's trying to eat 1,500 donuts in a week. Oh, well, let's go talk to him.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff they fill the time with.
Right. E-block.
You have to, yeah. It's not that they didn't have the time for RFK Jr. to talk. They actively didn't want him to speak.
I got to throw one at you here because it's along these lines, especially with why RFK makes the change. Do you think that the attempted assassination on Trump influenced RFK's decision?
Yes.
Because here's a man who has lost 2 amazing people. Like, the world would have been different if JFK and Bobby had survived, right? I mean, we've talked about it in those pivotal moments. We've got great people who get assassinated, right? And if you're RFK and you see that and you realize that's the guy they're trying to kill because of his message, is that who you start standing behind? Because that really shows you what the evil plans are for those who don't want Donald Trump or don't want positive change for us societally, right? They always get rid of the good people, and they tried with Trump. So do you think that was the case? Do you really think that he was like, it's time to do it?
3 things. First thing, he said today during his speech that immediately after Donald Trump survived his assassination attempt, he spoke with one of his advisors on food safety and getting chemicals and genetically modified processed foods out of our diet. And that advisor told him, oh, by the way, I am advising Trump on this issue too.
Yeah.
So he said that he had that conversation with his advisor right afterwards. So hearing that Donald Trump is actually taking advice on this issue from the same guy he is, and he knows that this guy is like the leading visionary on this issue, was huge, right? Number 2, obviously, with the family history of assassinations, this is a raw, like a really tough issue for him. But remember, immediately after, what did Donald Trump push to the forefront? RFK Jr. needs Secret Service protection. It is a scandal that he had been denied Secret Service protection for nakedly political reasons by the Biden administration, who did not want the American people to see him as a legitimate candidate. Even though his father and his uncle had been killed by an assassin's bullet, they denied him Secret Service protection to delegitimize his candidacy. Donald Trump pushed it across the finish line, whether it be through his speaking out on it or just the fact that he survived the bullet. You can't politicize it anymore, right? And 3, you remember they had that leaked phone call that RFK Jr. and Donald Trump had talking about these issues. the RFK Jr. team, I believe it was his son, leaked the footage, which was scandalous. You don't leak that footage. But in that phone call, you heard Donald Trump talking about RFK Jr.'s top issues. And this was right after surviving an assassination attempt, talking about vaccine safety, right? Drug manufacturers. That's what they were talking about. So without a doubt, I think that the survived assassination attempt absolutely contributed to this just by what we know and what we can surmise by his obvious family history.
Ooh,
A
it's
three-part
powerful.
answer.
Yeah, it's a really powerful sort of moment. I mean, it's all these events are like culminating into what we're seeing now. And I've been really kind of negative, Debbie Downer inside of myself because I'm always worried that something's going to go bad on election day. But seeing that happen, like there's like some new hope.
Yeah.
And I just know it sounds crazy, but now there's a party that wants more. Could you imagine the rise of conservative Democrats? Could you imagine it? I mean, it may not be something that happens soon, but
Well, conservative Democrats are dead. They've purged them from the party. What you're seeing is liberals pretending to be conservatives. Like last night, everyone waving American flags.
mm,
They're trying to reclaim the image, but everyone, like while they were waving the American flags, their foot soldiers, the Hamas agitators, were outside burning American flags. Like you can't get rid of that imagery, but they're trying. But one of the reasons that they're trying is because they know their actual policies would kill them. Like, did you know that Gavin Newsom only spoke at the convention to introduce the California delegation? Gavin Newsom, someone we all believed was the heir apparent in a contested primary after Biden dropped out. Oh, he'll throw his hat in the ring. Not only did they deny him that chance, but they didn't even give him a speaking slot on stage. The only time he held a microphone was to say during the roll call, representing the great state of California, California's so great, yada, 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 hands it off to the next state. And that was it. That was it. So no, you can't, the Democrat Party knows they can't get away with sharing their true beliefs. They have to either lie about everything or pretend to be conservatives. Like they go out and they say, oh, well, we are against book banning. We believe in the freedom to read whatever book you want.
mhm.
That's not the issue. The issue is whether or not elementary schools should have books on the shelves in public libraries that contain illustrated child pornography.
Yeah,
And by that, I mean
right.
illustrated pages showing underage characters engaging in sex acts with one another.
That's
You
the issue.
can't get a live actor to do that because that would be child pornography.
Yeah,
But the loophole in the law is to illustrate it. How messed up in the head do you have to be that illustrator, right? There are jails filled with photographers who think that that's art, but you're an
yeah.
illustrator, you get away with it. Do I need to put it up on the screen?
No, I don't want to see it. I
I
don't want
have
to
the
see that
censored one.
stuff.
I can do the censored one. Like they're saying freedom. Everyone deserves the freedom to read whatever books they want. And what we're saying is, well, maybe this book shouldn't be in the children's library at the public school. You know what I mean? Like that's not a weird position. This isn't
Yeah,
book burning. This isn't like Nazis
this is the
erasing
heart of the
history.
Democrat. Yeah,
Like the left has gone from we're saying, hey, maybe this shouldn't be in schools, to them now saying, oh, they're trying to get rid of history books, trying to revise our history. No, the only thing we're trying to stop you in history class is teaching that is history. So they're very good at twisting the issues to try and come off as less radical than they actually are, which is why you have to get that out there. You have to talk to your friends. Like we all, as I said the other day, we all know someone who's an RFK Jr. supporter.
Mhm.
We all know someone in our life who is like all in for RFK Jr. And we've seen from the polling, I'll put it on the screen again, that RFK Jr. voters, without his endorsement, without his pleading with them to vote for Trump, already naturally swing Trump. only 2 states where they're less than a majority, GA and PA, and Michigan. But they're all a net positive for Trump when RFK Jr. leaves the race. It's up to us to solidify that support. Talk to these RFK Jr. supporters that we know, solidify their support, and also explain to them why they can't be among the Kamala Harris supporters. It's insane. She just sabotaged his campaign, and to help those undecided. So it's a huge moment for us. It's a huge moment to really win this thing, because let's see, has 538 taking him out?
I don't know. I was just 270 to win, and Colorado shifted from a safe dim to leans dim. They're one step away from moving to 50-50. I mean, and this is before the announcement by Kennedy. And I think of something like 4 or 6% that were on that Kennedy independent ticket side. If they just captured that 3%, man, that could really change things, even in Colorado. I still think it's going to go Harris, but
so here is 538, which I don't like, but they're at least being honest with RFK Jr. support. You can see they have the popular vote, Kamala Harris 49.7%, Donald Trump 45.9%. I think that's probably right. Nationwide popular vote, once you add in Illinois, California, and New York, I think you're going to see a popular vote lead for Kamala Harris that no amount of great turnout in the swing states will ever change. But popular vote doesn't decide the president. It's who wins the Electoral College. They could turn out every single registered voter in California, and they still only get the same number of Electoral College votes. But you look here, in that nationwide popular vote, the support for Kennedy is greater than the difference between Kamala Harris and Trump, which is where this really has the chance to be like race changing. If you can ensure that the majority of those Kennedy supporters turn out for Trump, right? In some of those states, you're looking at 2/3 of the Kennedy supporters backing Trump before he starts telling them to do it. You can close this gap, especially in the swing states that are even now to this day showing Kamala Harris up 1, up 2. You can swing that. You can absolutely swing it, but it has to be a central piece. It can't just be he gives this endorsement and he leaves, right? Whatever you got to do to tell RFK Jr., yeah, you'll be, I would give it to him. I would just give it to him. You want to be head of HHS? You want to make sure that we never again do lockdowns? You have it. It's yours. But I need you out on the campaign trail with me to explain why this is so important.
Yeah.
You do that, you win the election.
You do. And you also build something that's never been built before. Like it's a disruptor moment in politics. That's what we've got right now. This is a true disruptor. I remember when Ross Perot stole the election from George Bush, Herbert Walker, and Clinton became president. Started a long run of the Clintonism. But anyway, this is a different moment. It's kind of pivotal. With RFK not there, he doesn't get to pay the Perot spoiler, right? I mean,
and that's something he said today. He promised from the very beginning that he would not be a spoiler. If at any point he felt that he could not win and he only stood to spoil, he would not do it. And the fact that the results showed he was helping Harris by being in the race, the party that froze him out wouldn't let him to compete for a position that they said was already settled, and then in a back room decide, actually, we changed our mind. Obviously he had to do what he did. And honestly, if he could have just, I still think Trump will win, but this only helps that.
Yeah. I got the 538.
I'll give you the final words.
Enjoy the moment that you've got here. There's real opportunity to see people start believing in something. So if you've got that friend out there that doesn't know, who's never voted Trump, that never Trumper out there, share this show with them so you can see the progression. Have them start at the beginning, have them watch the shows, and we've laid out the evidence as to why you need to vote Trump this this cycle, right? It needs to happen.
And you hear, when you study the issues that RFK Jr. believes in, that Donald Trump also believes in, like, you're not going to get, Trump's not going to adopt RFK Jr.'s social policies, right? He's not going to do a flip on many of them. But on issues like the border, on issues like food safety, drug safety, ending foreign wars, going up against the military industrial complex, these are all things that we can get behind. You don't need to be Republican or a Democrat to understand that these are common sense things. It's exciting. I must see television tonight to see if it is a RFK Jr. appearance at that rally.
Oh yeah.
Or if it's just masterful Trump team social media algorithm.
They got it, dude. They got it.
We'll see. But we'll tune in for that. Until then, have a great weekend. This is the Right Guys podcast. If you like the podcast, please do subscribe, like and follow the Twitter page, like and follow YouTube, Rumble. We also have the audio edition of the podcast. That's everywhere audio podcasts are found. Subscribe to that. Try and make this as audio friendly as possible. You can listen while you're driving. We've always really tried to do that for people. So tune in, subscribe. And even if you just watch us on Rumble or YouTube or Twitter, please just subscribe to the podcast anyway. As we prove those numbers, it'll be helpful for advertisers. That's it for this edition of the podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
Josh Hammer.
And remember, the fight to take back the country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together, RFK Jr. supporters included. See you next time.